good, brother? What's up?
This is a groovy party, man.
Yeah,
I
brother,
can
like,
dig it.
stop. Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name? Mother, mother, there's too many of you.
Well, I never really watched hockey. I mean, I had no clue what hockey was. My father used to flood the backyard, and we used to skate on that with our ice skates, but we didn't use sticks or pucks because we really had no conception of hockey. I did see one hockey game before I got involved in it, and that was, I was watching the Winter Olympics, and of course everybody was watching the Americans beat the Russians in that final game. But I really didn't understand it. I just kind of watched it.
My name's Robert Evangelist. I originally born and raised in Canada, St. Catharines, old hockey town, big GM town. Grew up there like any other Canadian kid. You know, the minute kids can walk in hard-soled shoes, parents slap steel blades on the bottom of them and they learn how to skate. I mean, it's a hockey culture.
Maybe every now and then I see a hockey game on TV, maybe. But, I never knew nothing about hockey. I never knew anything about it. So, I always thought they was, hitting around a little foam puck. The first time I picked up a real hockey puck and seen it was solid, me and my brother was like, dang.
They went back to the house and got sticks and made hockey pucks out of something and started banging up my walls down in my basement and tearing up the concrete and shooting these pucks back and forth, and they did that all summer. So, that of course gave me the impetus to get them involved in the fall.
We'd rap about hockey, and every now and then he'd say, hey, you got to come out and see my boys, man. You'd be surprised. Walk towards the stands, and up along the stands, of course, there were two groups. One was white and one was black. And so I walked up the stairs in between them, and I took a right turn into the black section. And it was funny because all the white people turned and stared at me like, why are you going to sit with them? And at the same time, some of the black folks turned and stared up at me like, why are you coming to sit with us? I went there to this arena, and Alex had told me, he says, I think it's going to be feisty.
We get called names by the other teams. They would get called names occasionally by parents in the stands. And initially, they even got called names by some of the referees.
If a ref hear that, they supposed to report that to the board. Like, man, y'all got a coach, like, blah, blah. And nobody care.
It was difficult at first because sometimes they would even come, and the youngins would come cry back to the bench crying, why you call me that?
And they were hearing things being yelled at them from the ice, and they were hearing things being yelled from the stands, and these parents are yelling at these parents, and I start seeing some things going on the ice where some of the kids are starting to get into it. By the time that game ended, I was involved, and I went to see Alex. I went down to the dressing room after the game, and I said to Alex, when's your next practice? And, I was a bit of a distraction to him because he was wanting to get into the dressing room. He just, he's like, man, we'll talk when we get back to work. And I said, no, seriously, when's your next practice? I'm going to be there. And he said something to the effect of, listen, we don't need any charity. And I said, this isn't charity. This is all hockey. It's strictly hockey. Okay, I can help. I remember skating up to center ice surrounded by these kids and Alex and George. And these kids were looking at me like, who's the white dude and what's he doing here? And then Alex explained that I was there to help. And so for that practice, I skated around and tried to give him some pointers and worked on some face-offs.
I mean, he really cared about us. Because he didn't have to be there at all.
I eventually took over as head coach, and so it was the three of us, Alex and George, as the assistant coaches, and of course Gloria Myers as the absolute backbone of the team, the manager.
And not only that, she was like our whole cheering section. And when you score and you hear that song, you mighty, mighty Rockies, mighty, mighty Rockies, you be hyped. You go out there, you do what you could do, and it made you feel special. Like, man, we really doing something.
It was a big tournament, and the fact that it was in Lake Placid on the famous ice rinks there just made it just an incredible draw. But it was a ton of money that it would take to do it. I'm convinced that something magical happened the minute we stepped out into Lake Placid, because it was a magical 4 days. And we went out and played the first game. I remember it was against a team from Western New York. It was a tough game, but during that game, we ended up there were obstacles, emotional obstacles, as many as hockey obstacles that we got through that showed me and reinforced to me how far this team had come.
You kind of would have been expected to win, expected to do good, so maybe the coaches wouldn't have put as much emphasis on discipline. They would have put more emphasis towards winning, but in our case, it seemed like they were just coaching us just to keep us off the streets.
You know, the last thing I said to them was, go out there and tell the whole world why you're here. You know, they existed to play hockey. You know, Vernon Washington, great skater, great player, but he always thought he could do everything himself. He was a horrible passer, and he would never pass the puck. And so we always worked on him passing the puck. And in a tie game where we needed the momentum, we needed a goal, him and Nate get sprung on a 2-on-1 with Corey as a trailer, and Vernon gets the puck and has a shot and absolutely does a perfect fake shot, backhand drop to Corey, who hammers it. I mean, it was like Vernon never passes the puck. It was as if we were getting a sign, which I believe comes from above, that all the things that you were doing along the way, the lessons that weren't so much about hockey but more about life, are all, you know, it's coming to bear fruit.
We won the game, we won every game. We won the games in all three arenas. One of the games, I think was the third game we played a Canadian team. We beat them.
It was just a culminating moment of them and their personal development. And that's what we were after. We were after developing good young men. Winning became secondary.
It was a pretty big deal. Got a big trophy for it. It was a big accomplishment. That was that's about 12 years ago, and that trophy is still sitting up there in Jack Adams, and we leave it there because we were really proud of that.
We were the only all-black team to ever play at that level of competition, at that age level. And we didn't know that at the time, but the only all-black team in the history of sport. Not that it mattered. I mean, it was, for us, it was just a culminating moment. It was a fitting end to the years together.
Not too many people even know the struggles we went through. They just think we was a black team. It's like, man, we went through a lot of stuff. Like, we grew up. Like, that was my life. So I'm still having, it's still hard to even talk about it, because, I love it, man.
The big lesson of the Rockies was love. Love will take you anywhere.
Honestly, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, other than, my wife, marrying my wife, the next best thing that's ever happened to me was being involved in hockey.